The Privy. Next morning Joan found the little boy lying in a heap of torn sheets and a terrible tangle of blankets and feathers, fast asleep. She was going to cry out because she feared that something had come in at the window and attacked him at night, but he was sleeping so peacefully among all the destruction that she couldn't bring herself to wake him up, though she was in despair over the damage. "Come and look," she said to old Bob, and he stood open-mouthed in the doorway. "It looks like a hen run after a fox has been in," he said. There wasn't a sheet or blanket that hadn't been torn into strips. The pillow was burst open, and the feathers lay like snow over the whole bed. Even Bob's old nightshirt lay in tattered strips around the thin little body on the mattress. "Oh, Roger," said Joan, "what have you done?" The boy must have learnt his name, because he woke up as soon as she said it, and sat up cheerfully. "I'm hungry again," he said. "Look at what you've done," she said. "What were you thinking of?" He looked around proudly. "Yes, it was hard, but I've done it," he said. "There's a lot more that needs chewing and tearing. I'll do that for you later." "You shouldn't tear things up," she said. "I've got to sew them all together again. We don't live like that, tearing things apart. Dear, oh dear." The more she looked, the more damage she saw. It was going to take hours to repair. Bob said, "Did you do that because you was a rat?" "Yes," said Roger. "Ah, well, that explains it," the old man said. But Joan was in no mood to listen. "That's got nothing to do with it. Never mind what he was. It's what he is now that matters. You shouldn't tear things up like this," she cried, and she took his little thin shoulders and shook him, not hard but enough to startle him. "You come down the kitchen with me," said Bob, "and I'll tell you a thing or two. But first let's have some more manners. You've upset Joan, so you have to say sorry." "Sorry," said the boy. "I understand now. Sorry." "Come along," said Bob, and took him by the hand. He could see Roger fidgeting, and guessed what he wanted to do, and took him to the Privy just in time. "Whenever you want to do that, you come in here," he said. "Yes, I will," said the boy. "That's a good idea. Now come and have your breakfast. Wrap them pieces of nightshirt around you. You can't walk around naked. It ain't decent." Roger sat and watched Bob cut 2 slices of bread and prop them on the range to toast. "I'll cook you an egg," the old man said. "You like eggs?" "Oh, yes," said Roger. "Thank you. I like eggs a lot." Bob cracked it into a frying pan, and Roger's jaw dropped as he saw the white spitting and bubbling, and the golden yolk glistening in the middle. "Ooh, that's pretty," he said. "I never seen an inside of an egg." "I thought you ate them before." "I ate them in the dark," Roger explained. "What, when you was a rat?" "Yes. Me and my brothers and sisters, we ate them in the dark, yes." "All right then," said Bob peaceably, and slid the fried egg onto a plate and buttered the toast. Roger could barely hold himself back, but he remembered to say thank you before he put his face right down onto the plate and drew it back at once, gasping at the heat, his eyes brimming with tears, yellow yolk dropping off his mouth and nose. He turned to Bob in distress. "Oh, I forgot you don't know how boys eat eggs," the old man said. "You probably thought he was a rat still, I expect." "Yes," said the Roger unsteadily, wiping at the mess with his little fingers and licking them hard. "I couldn't swallow a spoon, so I used my face." "It's a spoon, not a spoon. For eggs you got to use a knife and a fork. Here, do it like this. You copy me." Ignoring the tears and the egg on his face, Roger tried hard to do as Bob showed him. It was much harder to eat the egg with a fork than it had been to spoon up the bread and milk. But wherever he got discouraged, Bob told him to take a bite of the toast. Roger held it up both in his hands and chewed it swiftly with his front teeth. "I like toast," he said, "and egg." "Good. Now listen, we've got to find out where you came from, and if there's someone who ought to be looking after you. Because you can't look after yourself. You're too little, and you can't stay here because you don't belong to us, see?" "I want to stay here. I don't want to go anywhere." Well, we've got to do what's right. There's clever folk in the city hall. They'll know what's right. We'll go along there by and by. Yes, that's right, said Roger. The city hall. The office they needed was at the top of a grand staircase and along a panelled corridor. Bob and Joan had to hold the boy's hands because he kept making little twitching movements as if he wanted to run away again. Do you want the privy again, is that it? Said Bob, and Joan hushed him for using a rude word in an important place. But he said, There's times when the privy is the most important place. No, said Roger, I just want to see what the wood in the wall tastes like. He's an odd one, all right, said Joan. But she looked down at him fondly all the same, and he did look smart with his brown hair pushed neatly and stuck down with water, and his uniform washed and pressed, and his vivid black eyes gazing around. In the office where they dealt with lost children, they had to sit down while a lady filled in a form. Bob was anxious to get things right. Properly speaking, we ought to have gone to the found children office because this is a found child, only there isn't one as far as we could see, he told her. So we come here instead. You better tell me the details, said the lady. She took one of a dozen very sharp pencils out of a jar. Roger watched her hand move to the jar, but he didn't watch it go back to the paper. As soon as he saw the pencils, he fell in love with them. His whole heart longed for them. So, while the lady and Bob and Joan leaned across the desk talking, Roger's hand creeped off his lap and slowly, carefully, over to the jar. He couldn't help it any more than a dog could help tiptoeing around the corner to eat the cat's food. Bob was puzzled by what the lady was saying, which was why he was leaning over the desk to peer at the form she was filling in. No, he said, that can't be right. He's got to come from somewhere. Somewhere must be missing him. I can assure you, she said, our records are very thorough. There are no lost children in the city, not one boy or girl. But what about found children? There's nothing we can do about found children. We'll deal with lost ones. Gah, said Bob. I'm baffled. Have you asked him where he comes from? The lady said. And they all turned to Roger. He looked up, pleased to be noticed, but a little guilty too. The stump of the pencil was just sticking out of his mouth, and he was quietly sucking inside and pressed his lips together. But the lead had marked his mouth, and there was little flecks of red paint all over it too. Joan said, Child, what have you been doing? He tried to answer, but his mouth was full of pencil. The lady said, That pencil was the property of the city council. I shall have to ask for you to pay for it. Bob paid up. That seemed a lot of money for a pencil. Roger could see that he'd done something wrong, and as soon as he swallowed the last of it, he said, Sorry. That's all very well, but you don't mean it. You bad boy, said Joan. That's the trouble. The little boy was bewildered. Did he have to do something else as well as say sorry? What did meaning it mean? He looked from one grown-up to another, and they were all talking again. You must have something, the lady said. I'm trying to help you, though it's not my job too. I've shown you a lot of patience. Roger looked for the patience, and since he didn't know what it was, and he didn't know what it looked like, he supposed she meant the pencils. He said he was a rat, Bob said. Not now, I mean, he didn't say I am a rat, he said I was a rat. That's all he said. The lady looked at all of them with distaste. I've got plenty to do without listening to nonsense, she said. Well, said Bob, all right, we won't trouble you any more. And he got up as massive as a hill. Though you ain't much help. Good day to you. And with Roger between them, the old couple walked out of the city hall. Ain't I going to stay there? Said the boy. No, said old Bob. Is that because I'm a bad boy? You ain't a bad boy. But Joan said I was. She was muddled, said Bob, frowning. And now I'm muddled too.